The arena felt strangely electric from the moment the lights dimmed and the players stepped onto the court. Fans who braved freezing temperatures packed the lower bowl early, eager to see a matchup that already carried simmering bad blood. Even in warm-ups, players exchanged subtle, sharp glances, nothing dramatic enough to draw attention, but noticeable enough to anyone who knew how tension brews in professional basketball. Every dribble sounded louder, every shoe squeak sharper, as if the hardwood itself sensed what was coming. On one side stood Minnesota, playing with a chip on their shoulder and desperate to inject energy into a slow start. On the other side, Detroit took the floor with emotional fire, anchored by their enforcer, Isaiah Stewart. Meanwhile, Dante DiVincenzo, calm, intense, locked in, played with a focus that looked almost dangerous. He wasn't talking, wasn't smiling, only observing, only waiting. The atmosphere was thick enough to cut with a knife, and everyone inside the building knew something was about to break.
The first sparks flickered early. It began with small bumps on rebounds, extended hand checks, and a few extra seconds of eye contact after whistles. DiVincenzo and Stewart brushed shoulders multiple times, and although both pretended nothing happened, the message was clear. Neither man planned to back down. The referees sensed the tone, but let the physicality go, hoping the players would adjust before things escalated. If you're enjoying this cinematic breakdown so far, don't forget to like this video, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel for more intense NBA highlights and Brawl breakdowns. Instead, the tension rose with every possession. Stewart set a hard screen that DiVincenzo fought through with equal force. DiVincenzo contested a layup and landed beside Stewart with a stare that lingered too long. The crowd felt the energy shifting, murmuring louder with each confrontation. What seemed like harmless physical play was now turning into a slow-burning fuse, inching closer to the powder keg beneath both teams.
The breaking point came when Rudy Gobert delivered a monstrous dunk over the Pistons' defense. Not only did it shake the rim, it shook the emotions of both teams. As Gobert roared and pounded his chest, Stewart turned immediately toward DiVincenzo and muttered something sharp enough to stop him in his tracks. A shoulder collided with a shoulder. A hand pointed. A bump followed. The referee stepped in, but the fuse was already lit. The next possession only fueled the fire. Detroit attempted to run a set, but Vontiego barreled into DiVincenzo and was instantly called for an offensive foul. DiVincenzo clapped in Stewart's direction. Stewart responded with a glare, and the Pistons bench erupted in frustration. Meanwhile, the Wolves crowd grew louder, sensing the atmosphere shifting from competitive to combustible.
Ron Holland then attacked the rim aggressively on the next play, only to be fouled hard by Naz Reid. Holland didn't appreciate Reid's reaction, and Reid didn't appreciate Holland's complaints. The two exchanged words, faces inches apart, as teammates circled instinctively. A finger wag, a shove to the wrist, a step forward. It was small, but it was enough. The referees rushed in to separate the two, but by now both benches were standing, players craning their necks, anticipating something more. The commentators felt it too. This wasn't normal trash talk. The building was alive in a way that signaled something much bigger was coming. The smallest gesture now carried explosive potential.
And then it happened. Stewart noticed DiVincenzo stepping into the group, and his pent-up frustration exploded into action. He charged, not running, but walking with dangerous intent, shoulders squared and fists half-clenched. DiVincenzo took a step toward him, refusing to move aside. Stewart barked something inches from his face. Dante barked back. A shove, a retaliation, a grab around the neck, and the crowd gasped. Within seconds, bodies collided like a tidal wave.
The benches emptied instantly. Pistons players flooded into the scrum, arms outstretched, trying to separate or support, depending on which color jersey they were reaching for. Wolves players swarmed in just as fast, pushing, shoving, yelling, hands grabbing jerseys. multiple piles forming and dissolving. Meanwhile, fans in the front row leaped from their seats as the fight spilled dangerously close to the sideline. A cameraman stumbled backward, almost losing his equipment as players crashed into his space. Security scrambled from both ends of the court, yelling commands drowned out by the roar of the crowd. What began as a brief confrontation had now become one of the wildest scenes of the season.
The chaos hit another level when coaches, yes, coaches joined the confrontation. Detroit assistant Pablo Pignon clashed verbally with Minnesota head coach J.B. Bickerstaff. Words escalated into shoves. Shoves escalated into direct confrontation. Both men wore black gear, making it nearly impossible to tell who belonged to which bench in the swirling mass of bodies. The broadcast crew was stunned. Coaches almost never get involved physically, yet here they were in the heart of the melee, pushing, yelling, and being restrained by their own staff. It became clear that this situation was no longer just a player fight. This was a full organizational meltdown happening in real time.
As players tumbled toward the baseline, two fans were nearly knocked off their seats. A full cup of beer somehow stayed upright in one man's hand, drawing a shocked laugh from the commentators despite the severity of the moment. Security staff formed human shields around the front row, trying to prevent the fight from spilling deeper into the crowd. In the chaos, a camera operator narrowly escaped being pinned between the scorer's table and two players. The replay later showed bodies slamming into chairs, drinks flying, and the crowd recoiling in fear. What the league fears most, a fight reaching fans, came closer than anyone wanted to admit. Security guards, team staff, and referees worked desperately to restore order. Multiple players had to be held back by 2 or 3 people at once. Naz Reid broke free twice, only to be grabbed and pulled away again. Stewart remained furious, yelling through the arms wrapped around him. DiVincenzo looked ready to re-engage at any moment. The officials tried blowing their whistles repeatedly, but the sound disappeared beneath the eruption of voices and stomping feet. The arena had become a storm, chaotic, unpredictable, and overwhelming. Even after the initial pile broke apart, players continued shouting across the court, reigniting smaller altercations. Even once the major brawl subsided, the aftershocks rippled across the court. Players who were separated continued threatening each other from distance, pointing, yelling, and pacing aggressively. Coaches shouted at referees, referees shouted back, and the entire arena buzzed with disbelief. Every replay on the Jumbotron only made things worse, each angle revealing a new shove, a new grab, or a new moment of escalation. Fans couldn't look away. This wasn't just a fight. It was a cinematic, chaotic, and unprecedented meltdown stretching across several minutes.
After a long delay, the referees gathered at the scorer's table, reviewing every angle available. The arena fell into a tense silence as fans waited for the verdict. The officials spent nearly 7 minutes analyzing pushes, punches, grabs, and coach involvement before returning to center court. Finally, the PA announcer delivered the ruling. Naz Reid, Dante DiVincenzo, Ron Holland, Isaiah Stewart, Marcus Sasser, all ejected. Then came the shocking part. Coaches Pablo Pignon and J.B. Bickerstaff ejected as well. The arena erupted at the announcement.
The Timberwolves instantly lost nearly 26 points of bench production with Naz Reid and DiVincenzo gone. Detroit, meanwhile, kept more firepower on the court, shifting the balance of the matchup dramatically. The Wolves bench looked stunned, while the Pistons bench looked emboldened, sensing an opportunity. The officials awarded Detroit a technical free throw, further tilting momentum. As the replacement players walked onto the floor, it was clear that the tone of the game had changed permanently. Everything after this moment would be filtered through the chaos that had unfolded minutes earlier. This confrontation wasn't a random explosion. It was the result of simmering tension, physical play, emotional responses, and escalating challenges over several possessions. What started with a few bumps and stares grew into one of the most chaotic altercations we've seen all season, complete with players, coaches, benches, and near collisions with fans. When the dust settled, the story of the night wasn't the score. It wasn't the box stats. It wasn't even the final outcome. The story was the eruption. The moment everything boiled over in the arena witnessed a scene that will undoubtedly be replayed and analyzed for weeks.
If you enjoyed this full cinematic breakdown of one of the wildest NBA brawls of the season, make sure to drop a like, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel for more intense NBA stories, breakdowns, and highlights.